Lou.
Part of the special event.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. These 5 positions in the Bureau of Street Services were included in the 2009-10 budget, but being new positions, they were put into the UB and frozen there along with the authorities as well as the money. However, due to the importance of the special event one-stop permitting office that's going to be going into effect very soon, the Bureau has indicated...
Excuse me, the people in the audience, if you want to carry a conversation, do it outside. Thank you. Go ahead.
The Bureau indicates that they will be unable to implement the one-stop permitting function for special events without these additional positions. They don't have people on staff that they can dedicate to implementing and carrying out the duties that they would be assigned under the new special events ordinance.
How much has been put aside for this? 5 positions and how much money?
It's $325,421. That's already been budgeted.
And is that staff and supplies and
My
materials?
understanding is it's everything that they need.
Clerical, in addition to the 5 positions?
Yes, there's a clerk typist and a senior clerk typist.
So is that 7, or does that include the 5?
No, that's included within the 5.
Okay, how many personnel are assigned to the Bureau of Street Services?
Good afternoon, Gary Harris, Street Services. Currently, there is 1 full-time investigator working the program, assisted part-time by a senior investigator and a professional student worker.
Okay. And this is going to be the new policy on special events citywide. So the 5 positions will take care of all special events citywide.
That is correct.
And the cost savings to the city?
That I defer to the...
What's the cost savings? If we're spending $325, what are we going to save?
Several million.
Well, with the new process, what's envisioned is that rather than the city waiving fees, the event organizers would pay for 50%, and then if the council members choose, they can subsidize up to 50% of the cost.
So the maximum subsidy will be 50%?
Yes,
Not freebies like it's been for
exactly.
hundreds and thousands of years.
So conservatively, it's been estimated that if we have the same level of events, then we should probably get at least $2 million.
Now, what about events like the Academy Awards?
They would pay 50%.
So right now, they don't pay anything.
That's true.
So all those events that will claim they're going to be leaving LA because we're going to charge them a fee that they weren't charged in the past. How do you respond to that? Since they've been receiving this for years without any kind of a fee. And now we're going to charge 50% of whatever it is. But some will pay 100%, and some will pay 50%. The maximum subsidy will be 50%.
I believe the policy will state that 50% is the maximum
That will allow.
subsidy allowed.
That's 50% on nonprofits. If they're for-profit, they pay their own way.
That's true, but the Academy Awards is a nonprofit foundation.
So any nonprofit will pay a minimum of 50%. And if it's not a nonprofit, they'll pay 100% of the
Yes,
fee.
that's true.
And then the other problem with this, if there is a problem with this, the 5 folks will be working out of what office?
They'd be out of the Bureau of Street Services Investigation and Enforcement Division.
And where's that?
That is at the Public Works Building.
Which is downtown.
It's downtown. However, we do have a cooperative agreement for our other permits right now with the Bureau of Engineering, and they do provide services at their outlying offices for our permits. We anticipate that this permit will be treated the same way.
So people from the Valley or San Pedro can go to those respective city halls?
Yes.
To process, they won't have to come downtown?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
You know, one of the things is that want to make sure that when you become operational, which will help, I think, every council district, is those special events that people can just come in and get their barricades and their street signs give you a deposit, and do it themselves. That's the bulk of what I think we hope that you can take off the council offices. The 50% group, that will all based on whether they can afford it, and those may dwindle in size. But those secondary street events is where you can take the major load off, and people can do it themselves, and then when they return everything, you give them back their deposit as long as they have their insurance. So that's what I hope that we can get done. And while we're on this 30-day hiatus of, we're still waiving, and you can become operational, the faster you're operational and able to work with DOT, the better it will be for all of us.
Well, we think a key for us to becoming operational within a 45-day window is the ability to hire quickly for the positions that are proposed here today. We also want to work, one of the positions here will be essential in helping us establishing the completely online system. We want to be able to allow those people with block parties, with a credit card or other means, not even to come to an office at all, but to complete the process entirely online, except for, of course, picking up the barricades from one of our yards.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, and we hope you're operational well before 45 days, because that's how important it is. But we're going to waive this from Budget and Finance so we can get it to council, and that we can get it operational as quickly as possible. And we're told second week of August, Lynn? Second week?
Yes,
Second.
the 10th.
The 10th. We should have the policy coming back to council.
And the implementation would be when?
We'd like the policy to, or the ordinance to come back to Budget and Finance on the 10th, and possibly in council that week.
And then what is it, 60 days for the audit?
So it won't be until December, January, by the time.
Can we do an emergency or whatever?
It could be earlier than 60 days, I believe.
Yeah.
And the positions that you're looking at, you're talking about hiring people. The city's facing a major financial crisis, which we all know about. How about some of these folks that are currently maybe on the list for removal for pink slip? Do we analyze that before we go out to the hiring process?
I think our hope is with 3 of the positions, there are transfer opportunities that exist citywide, and we would hope that we'd be able to utilize that as a means of filling those positions. Unfortunately, 2 of the positions are very specialized, and they would require the establishment of eligible lists, and there are not currently lists for those positions. But 3 of the 2, we do think could offset possibly some people who would be facing layoffs by the transfer opportunities.
So you're talking about the street services inspector and the senior street service investigator 3. They're going to have to do testing for those?
Those would have to be through a testing process, yes.
Okay, so you're going to have your clerical folks in place, but you're not going to have your investigators in place. So how are we going to implement without them in place?
With the allowance of an emergency appointment, we could expedite the hiring of those folks before a list could be established.
Because it's going to take months to get a list published.
Right, but we could do emergency appointment in weeks.
Do they have any personnel in the Bureau who could fill those positions now?
There are,
Swap some people out and then swap them back?
unfortunately, we gave up several positions coming into the new fiscal year, so we are at minimum deployment in all of the other programs that employ street services investigators.
Well, it doesn't make sense to hire the 3 without having the other 2 components. You're either going to have a package deal. It's like an airplane having 1 wheel when you need 2 or 3 wheels.
Within 30 days, if we're allowed to do an emergency appointment, we can
Have you
hire.
put that request in for the emergency appointment?
We will do it as soon as we gain approval from this committee.
So from here, then you come back again for an emergency appointment? What's the process on that?
No, it wouldn't be necessary,
No.
Where does it go?
No, personnel department.
right?
Well, our first hurdle is the managed hiring process, and once it goes through that hurdle, the emergency appointment is actually approved by the personnel department after we know that it's been unfrozen. And certainly with an exam such as this, with such high priority program, we would expedite the examination. And for example, if there's a written test and an oral and several components, that usually takes longer. But if there were just an oral or just a written, that could be done very quickly.
So we want to make sure that when we have our clerk typist or senior clerk typist and a program analyst, that we have those folks join when we have these other folks. In other words, you need to have a package deal. and not have 3 people waiting around for the other 2 folks to show up. So I think it's not gonna be very effective if you have the clerk typist waiting to work when you have those other folks that I understand are part of the component.
Yeah. But I think the programmer is going to put together the online system.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that could be done immediately when they're hired.
So what about the other 2? There's gonna have to be some coordination between hiring your investigators and hiring these other people. Otherwise, they'll be sitting around waiting for something to do.
Well, no, we would have work for them to do. We do have a supervisor who is part-time overseeing the program. He just does not have the time to oversee it full-time at this point. For a temporary measure, we can increase the use of that supervisor until we can get the emergency appointment on board.
So you can get something moving quickly
Yes,
while you're working up the other.
yes.
Okay. Mr. Cardenas, one, number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
My
Was there-
recommendation would be that you take an additional action here, which is to exempt these positions from the managed hiring process.
Yeah, that's good.
And with the instruction that the clerk typist, senior clerk typist, and the programmer analyst, they look to transfers first, and hopefully they fill that way, but then if they cannot fill, then give them the opportunity to fill.
Well, with the gloom and doom on the budget, it seems that would be the appropriate way before we go out to hire from the outside. At least keep your city folks who are already employed. Yes, June?
If I can just make a comment about the process. Our preference would be not to discuss positions that are being transferred from the UB into the department relative to the managed hiring process. And the reason is because it is assumed that if you are going to be transferring the positions over and appropriating funding, then inherently council's action would be to authorize the one-time exemption. I think it gets a little confusing combining the two. Our concern is that if you do exempt, using the terms exempting from the managed hiring process, it seems to give the impression that the exemption is on an ongoing basis. And I want to ensure that the integrity of the process is maintained. Our intention is that if it is going to be exempted, that it be a one-time exemption, so that they don't have backfill authority.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Tom, is that okay with you? All right.
Can we get a placeholder
Yes.
for this week?
We'll work with the clerk to do that.
So hopefully this will be done before the end of the year.
We could get it done before the end of the year. There is one other point I'd like to make on that with the mention of backfill. There would be important that we do have the authority to backfill the person that is promoted into the senior position, because that will take a position away from one of the other minimally staffed programs within the Bureau. So we would desire to have the backfill authority for that one position.
I would recommend that the Bureau
Yeah, that's managed
request,
hiring. That's managed hiring, right?
yes, that it,
Yeah.
right.
So we're not going to approve that, or we are going to approve that?
No, I think the
Don't
issue
approve
is
it.
that we approve what we have, and then if they promote somebody inside, they go through managed hiring to get the backfill cleared.
So that part's not going to be approved, but the first part will. A motion?
Move
Second.
item 1.
All right, you have the approval for that, and on our way, thank you. Number 2, please. We've been joined by Mr. Cardenas.
On item 2, you have a memo from the mayor, and this is relative to the exemption of one senior project coordinator for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. This is based on Charter Section 1001B1.
Yeah. again.
And this item will be in council tomorrow. I'm sorry, tomorrow.
Hi.
Hi, Rose Garcia with the Department of Water and Power. This is for a senior project coordinator to kind of leverage the partnership that we are trying to make with the universities, with some technology agencies and environmental groups for various initiatives that Water and Power has. And this position is needed to facilitate and leverage those opportunities that we have with those, that we're trying to pursue with those organizations.
What's the salary on this position?
It'll be, the range is 72 to 90. We're looking at 72,000, 75,000, depending on the skills of the people that we recruit, the individual we recruit.
Okay, is this a open test process?
It's not a test, it's an exempt position, but it is an open opportunity for anyone who meets the requirements that are stated as 4 years of college and experience with the community, doing programs with the community.
Okay. Mr. Cardenas?
Are you looking for somebody who has strength of relationships throughout the basin, or are you looking at somebody who has more of a stronger technical background and hopefully some relationships with universities and not-for-profits? What of those two descriptions, which is more important?
Someone who has more of the relationships with the community and that has had experience working with more of the private sector, obviously, than internal governmental type experience. Someone that knows what it takes to get into the doors and to leverage those opportunities with the whether it's a university or whether it's those technical agencies. Someone that has that exposure out in the community, as opposed to a technical expert. It's more than networking skills, the outreach skills, project management skills we are looking for, and communication skills.
Do you think it's possible for somebody to be technically inclined and have those skills?
It's
Like
possible.
maybe somebody with an engineering degree and they maybe have personality?
You looking for Well, wait. The personality, I don't know about the engineering.
I was going to say, anything's possible.
Gary?
Anything's possible.
As buildings are collapsing in Los Angeles, Gary Moore volunteers.
Right, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, let me just ask, one thing I was unclear on, is this an existing position or a new position, or are we after a person already in the department, or what?
It's a new position. It's a new exemption of a senior project coordinator. We don't have senior project coordinators in the Department of Water and Power. It's a new exempt position.
It's a new position?
One.
Okay, let me ask, what was the rationale for this classification for this job?
Well, we looked at the duties that the person would be doing, and we looked at the classifications that we had already in the department and found nothing that fit there. So then we took a look at the duties of a variety of exempt positions that currently exist by classification in the city. And this one best fit someone who does leverage and kind of work with the community and work with these agencies, these type of agencies.
Okay, where are these positions most apt to be found?
I found some in CDD, and I found some, I think Rec and Parks had the same type of classification as well. Used exempt, though.
Okay. Let's see, and then the funding is just general fund from
DWP fund?
DWP funds.
I mean, it's just not a special fund?
No,
But it's
not a special
general
fund.
fund out of DWP?
Correct.
Okay, and then one thing I was unclear on is that exactly, I mean, it sounds like you're saying a liaison or community liaison. Is there more substance to their
Well, the person's going to
job?
coordinate the projects and the tasks. They're going to identify the opportunities, and then they'll coordinate with existing staff the projects that they actually do. In other words, all the players that are involved with actually carrying out whatever initiatives that we're working on. So the person will be tracking the project, coordinating the efforts between the various divisions and systems within DWP.
We don't have anyone else doing that now.
No,
So they're liaison to the outside and their coordinator inside?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Make it a motion?
Yeah, we'll move it.
Second. All right. That's approved. Number 3, please.
On item 3, you have a CEO report relative to the fiscal year 2009-10 staffing plan for the Proposition F Fire and Animal Facilities Bond Program. The Public Safety Committee has recommended approval of the recommendations contained in the CEO report.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Ramon Soto with the CAO's office. Before you are two adjustments to staffing in the Bureau of Engineering for the Proposition F Fire and Animal Bond Program. I've also submitted a couple of handouts that Mr. Parks requested when this item was in Public Safety Committee, and I will discuss those shortly as well. As a matter of background, Proposition F was approved by the voters in November of 2000. It provided $378 million for the construction of 20 fire facilities, as well as $154 million for the construction of 8 animal shelters. At this point in time, 17 of the 20 original fire bond projects have been completed. 7 of the 8 of the animal bond projects have been completed. In April of this year, using savings and Proposition F, the council and mayor approved a new project, Fire Station 7 in Arleta. And there is another proposed fire station to replace Fire Station 39, which is pending mayor and council consideration at this time.
Where's that one located? What area?
The Fire Station 39 is located in Van Nuys, right across the street from Van Nuys City Hall. I think you have a view of it.
When was that built?
It was 70 years old.
70 years old?
70 years old. So it was built quite a while ago. Fire Station 39.
39 years? 1939. Built in 1939.
I guess so. That's right. Just before World War II.
Before my time.
I used to go by on horseback.
On the horse? When you were working Van Nuys as a policeman?
The proposed staffing level for the Prop F program in 2010 is 28 positions. 26 of those have already been approved by the Mayor and Council through the Personal Authority Resolution. These two positions are intended to down-gauge the position authorities, a single position authority. We're going from a principal engineer in the animal bond program down to a senior civil engineer, and then a civil engineering associate in the fire bond program, which would replace a senior civil engineer. So it represents a downscope. The position count of 28 for 2010 represents a reduction of 16 positions from 2008-9, which was 44. At this point, I guess I'll discuss the handouts that I gave you. If you look at them historically, I guess I'll refer to the white spreadsheet first. It shows you a historical level of positions over the bond program. So you can see initially in 2001-2 was the first time that positions were authorized, and 33 positions were authorized for across BOE and various other departments. We reached a peak workload and staffing levels in the years 2004-5 and 5-6. As you can see, we had 90.5 positions and then 89.5 positions. And ever since then, we've been downscoping the number of positions as we've been completing projects, so that the proposed level in 2010 is 28 positions, which is the lowest that it's ever been. In fact, lower than, compared to the 33 from 2001-2. If you look at our other chart, it shows the positions kind of in concert with the projects themselves. The black line represents all positions. The green line represents staffing and departments other than Bureau of Engineering, and then the blue line represents staffing of the Bureau of Engineering. So you can see there's a classic bell curve to the staffing over time, and we do feel that at this point we are appropriately staffed. And so we would ask that this committee and then the council approve those two adjustments and positions that are recommended in the CAO report.
Go ahead, Tom.
When it comes to the staffing level at the end of this chart, what is the cumulative annual cost for all that staffing?
The cost of that staffing is about $2.6 million in direct costs. It's about $900,000 in indirect costs for a total of about $3.6 million.
That's paid for out of the bond.
And it's all these positions are paid for from the general obligation bond.
So when you were at 90.5, now you're going to go to 28. What happened to those other bodies?
I'm sorry, I had someone whispering in my ear. Could you repeat that, please?
90.5,
Yes.
and then now you're at 28. What happened to those bodies along the way?
At different points along, all departments absorb positions into vacancies and such. And currently, the proposed level of staffing has been taken into account by all the departments as well. So we're not in a situation at this point where we have bodies but no place to put them.
So some of them might have gone back to their other respective duties before these responsibilities, and some of them may have retired or what have you. So it's a whole litany of how people have been either reabsorbed or repositioned.
That's correct. And typically, if a department has an excess of positions or authorities and there's a no layoff policy, then substitute positions would have to be activated. But that's not the case in this case.
Now, position doesn't mean that there's a body in that position.
Right, these are authorized positions. At this point, some vacancies exist as well, from the 28.
Sometimes people retire, then they come back. That happens with folks who retire, get their pension, then come back. Any of these positions involved?
Not to my knowledge, no. We had a couple of positions in the CIO's office. I know that people retired and came back, but we don't have any returning retirees
So
in the program.
in BOE, they don't have any? Because you've had some really experienced, qualified people there that I thought did come back for a period of time.
Gary Moore with the Bureau of Engineering. We've only had one person who retired who's come back to assist us, and that was on the Police Administration Building.
Was that Sam?
That's Sam Tanaka, and actually he'll be finishing up his work in the next 2 months.
Then he's going to be gone?
Then he'll be done with the Department of Public Works Bureau of Engineering.
Because the concern is that we pension people off, and then they come back, and they're blocking spots for other folks that may want to promote up the ladder,
Right.
give
We're-
them opportunities.
That's not happening here.
Okay. And no disrespect to Sam, he's a great man, did a great
Right.
job. But we just want to make sure that there's opportunities for folks since the workforce is getting thinned out.
We fully support you.
Also, should this go forward when it goes to the council, by then, could you have a breakdown of the fire stations that are outlined here, and as to what quantity of funds are earmarked for each one of those stations?
Of the 20 original fire projects, like I indicated,
I'm talking about the ones that are left to do.
well, of the 20 original, there are 3 that remain to be finished in construction, but they're substantially done, except for Fire Station 82 in Hollywood, which are just starting construction. But we're in the final stages of construction on all the rest. Now, we had savings, and so in April this year, the mayor and council approved a replacement Fire Station 7, utilizing savings and accrued interest. And as I indicated at the beginning of my presentation, additional savings have become available, a total of $41 million we've identified in savings. That's enough to fund an additional fire station. The fire department's recommendation is to replace Fire Station 39 in Van Nuys. And the cost of that station would be about $37 million. So at this point, we're projecting savings of about $3 million in the program. Hopefully, there'll be additional, but that's what we're projecting on a hard basis.
Okay, and how much is earmarked for Station 7?
Fire Station 7, the project budget, Alan is here, but I believe it's something about 27 million,
It's
27.6 million.
for our lead of Fire Station number 7, it's $27,600,000, and that was approved by council. The report that's coming that has just been approved by Public Safety for Van Nuys Fire Station 39 is $37,100,000.
Is that going to be on the same site?
No, there's not enough space there, so land would have to be acquired in the vicinity.
That hasn't been done yet?
The project has to be approved first, and I know that they've been doing some informal surveys of what's out there, but nothing could be done officially. We can't talk to people and make offers until the project's actually approved.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
My questions are the same as I had in public safety. It just seems to me that either we were significantly underdeployed when we had almost 30 projects and 90 people. We have 5 projects left, and we have 28 people. That just,
it's what's kind of difficult to explain on that particular chart, where we've tried to show as much activity level as we could in a way, but it's hard to reflect the level of effort as well. So like, you look at the chart on the left-hand side of it, you see bars that exceed the positions, right? And the reason for that is because you have a lot of projects in design. The level of effort for design is less than the level of effort for construction. In terms of number of positions you need to oversee, both from BOE. When you're in construction, you have a fairly high number of inspectors from the CONAD. And so that's the best I could explain it for you, but from our perspective, the staffing has made a lot of sense, and staffing has reflected the level of effort.
No, I think it makes sense when we're building 30 buildings, but when we're down to 5, of which a couple of them are in process, to have 28 people spread throughout the city to deal with 5 projects just doesn't ring true when we know that at one time we had 90 people and they were dealing with
Right.
almost 30 projects. So that's,
The-
that's my concern, and it just looks like we're major league over deployed with the remaining resources. The best we're gonna come out of this is, we have 5, you can add 2 more stations at max. And we're talking about really 1/3 of the people still going, and we've gotten rid of about 90% of the projects.
There are a number of positions that have to remain, such as there's some, you have accountants, and even though we have completed projects, a lot of them need to be closed out. That requires staffing as well. So there's a point where you can't, even if you have less projects, you can't get rid of some positions. As you complete projects, you can eliminate as like the technical positions such as engineers, such as Con Ed inspectors, et cetera, which we've done. At this point, we feel that this is the smoothest, optimum level that we can operate at.
My final comment, if this was a general fund project, it wouldn't get past one committee. The fact that it's dealing with a bond fund, we seem to be a little lax in how we deal with personnel issues. But the issues, you've explained it, but I don't agree with it.
We can deny it if you wish.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it just doesn't make sense to me that we have 28 people working on 5 projects, maybe 2 more, and yet at the max, we had 90 people working on 30 projects.
32
Yeah,
projects.
so.
So
again,
the 5.5 projects, that's fire and animal services?
Yes, sir.
That's together.
Yeah, there's 1 animal shelter in South LA, and then there's 4 fire stations, and a 5th one that was approved, and then a 6th one that may come on. So 28 people is a lot of people.
When, you said some of these are nearly complete?
Yes, sir.
So when they're complete, why are we gonna keep those folks on instead of releasing those? How many are near completion?
Fire Station 21, that's near completion. Fire Station 64 and 65 are near completion as well.
3.
3 to 4.
You said that,
I'm sorry.
Councilman,
bail him out, Gary, he needs help. Because it's not making sense when you have
Right.
28 and you're gonna have 3 projects complete. What are we gonna do with those bodies?
in the breakdown of the 28 people, you have 4.5 people in the fire department, 1 in animal services, 3 in accounting, 4 in the information technology agency, 3 in the Bureau of Contract Administration, a half person in CAO, and 12 people in the Bureau of Engineering, 2 of which are currently vacant at this time. We also, for the Bureau of Engineering, along with the staff, Councilman, that you see in the city staff, at the peak of the program, we also had additional consultant support also. So it was not, as you see here, the 90 staff people. So as far as projects that are, we have 2 that are starting in design, we have 1 that just started construction, and we have the 3 others that are about at 75%, Alan? A little further. We have continued to, for the Bureau of Engineering, we continue to downsize as appropriate, and we've all but eliminated any in-house consultants at this time.
What do we have 4 ITA people doing on 5 projects?
Alan, do you want to address it? I'll let Alan go into that detail.
See, you can always, the speed of Gary leaving the table is the indication.
Well, I don't want to speak on the detail. My name is Alan Kawaguchi. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering, the program manager. What ITA people are doing is they're the ones actually pulling all the cable for the fire station, for all the communications. It's not something that we farm out so that they can tie the system back into the original system. Because again, we have a switchover system. It goes on a certain day where we tie everything over. We don't close the fire station down. So we use all in-house people to pull all the cable. All the communication lines are hooked up by all in-house. That's what the ITA people are doing.
The 3 that are 75% complete, I would assume that's already done.
Most of it is done. However, like I said, on the day of and a few weeks before is the preparation time of the switchover. Because like I said, we don't down the fire station. There's a 4-hour, what we call a switchover period.
Right. So what do we do when those stations come up? Those 3 stations are online shortly. We're at 28. What do we do with those 28 people? When do they revert back to something else or evaporate?
At this point, we're projecting that the staffing needs will be necessary for the entire fiscal year. We'll point out that, again, these are authorized positions, so as positions become vacant, too, they will be reabsorbed into the department's operations.
Well, I'm not really buying that 3 stations almost done, 75% done, and you're gonna have those folks sitting around with 4, and one of them's not even started yet. So that doesn't make much sense. I mean, once the station goes online, it's online, then those folks should evaporate at that time into some other function.
The positions that are being recommended in 2009-10 represent the workload that is expected to occur in 2009-10. So as we pull forward like into 2010-11, and we have stations that go into construction, let's say Fire Station 7 and 39, then we will be increasing staffing as appropriate in departments that require it, such as CONAD and ITA as well. I don't have didn't bring with me any information that shows historical staffing levels by department, but back in like peak workload, where you see four positions for ITA for Prop F, we probably had 12 or 13. So again, we're reducing staffing as necessary. The staffing levels are appropriate for the activities that are going to be conducted in 2010 from our perspective.
Okay, from our perspective, that doesn't make sense. I understand your perspective. Mr. Parks, pleasure.
I would just like to see them scrub them some more. I just don't know how we can, and again, we've always been somewhat lax on bond fund issues, but general fund, this wouldn't fly. I mean, I just wouldn't.
Well, it shouldn't fly here if it doesn't fly there.
I'd like to point out that the staffing levels, 26 of the 28 positions have already been approved by the mayor and council. These, what's before this committee are 2 technical adjustments in 2 positions where we're down gauging a principal engineer to a senior engineer and down gauging a senior engineer to a civil engineering associate. So these are 2 down gauge positions that are before you.
Well, we can make a motion and bring it all back too, and really cause havoc in the environment.
You can.
And that's not my choice, but to me, whether it's a bond measure or general fund money, it's still taxpayers' money. And we need to be cognizant of that. And the numbers, while they may seem realistic to you, I don't find it making sense, neither does Mr. Parks. I don't know about my colleague, Mr. Cardenas. But when you're almost complete on projects, to keep that, unless we were to give it a time frame, they would have a certain amount of time and then expire at that time. And then you'd have to come back, or they would sunset. But I understand that need to get done, but also it seems that it's more than what seems reasonable. And I'm not an engineer, Mr. Cardenas is. Mr. Parks is the Budget and Finance Chair, so we have a little bit of experience here. Mr. Cardenas?
Well, now, the positions that before us are 2 positions where they're going from higher level to lower level responsibility?
That's correct.
Okay. Which sounds like the right direction to go in when you're actually coming toward the end of a process like this. But what I'd like to ask, Mr. Chairman, that we ask for an update on these projects as outlined in the summary here, as outlined in this report, and another update in 90 days as to the status of the projects, and also a detailing of the application of all the positions relative to their responsibilities.
Mr. Parks?
I think we can get that. I just think 90 days puts us into 1/3 of the year expending money that we may not need to spend.
What, 30, 60?
30 would be fine, or what I'd really like to know is if you could have it before it goes to council.
The Bureau of Engineering absolutely can justify their 10 filled positions with 7 active projects.
I'd like to see something that tells us what 28 people are doing before we approve it in council? See, she thinks she's going to smile.
I'm just going to smile. I'm here to take note.
Two of us were former cops, the smile. It just shows your guilt, consciousness of guilt when you smile.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Brown's better.
I always smile, so, right? We do have a more detailed report that was presented to the Administrative Oversight Committee that details the work activities and the staffing levels for each of the departments that are part of the project management team, which we would be happy to share, and also if you need additional information over and above that report. But also I wanted to highlight that in terms of information technology, based on some of the controllers audits that we had done on some of our high-profile construction projects, that was an area that the controllers audit recommended that the city pay particular attention at the beginning rather than at the middle, at the end. And we had some problems with some of other projects where they felt that the information technology, infrastructure planning, support and implementation came at the middle or at the end of it. And, so I would caution against decreasing the IT staffing at that point.
I'm
No,
not
we're
trying to
not
pick
talking
one
about
over the other. I'm just saying 28. It just seems like somebody needs to look at the 28 and give us some better figures, because 28 and 5 projects versus 90 and 30-some projects it doesn't equate to me.
We can provide that information.
Okay. So be ready at council?
Yeah.
So what's the,
No, I would just like, if they're going to bring it to council, but also give us some due consideration that number 28 has been reconsidered, and you just might shock us and tell us it's less.
and remember, 3 of these projects are almost finished. So when you talk about the IT, pulling the wire, et cetera, should already have been complete.
And even if we're projecting that 2 more may come online, the 3 are coming offline, 2 more are coming online, you're still going to have a less than what we're dealing with now.
So we need that before it goes to council, and then do we still want to bring this back, gentlemen? No, I'm saying we could pull it through
They're coming in?
to council, but they have to have that answer before it goes to council. And then to,
And the lower the number is, the more apt it's on consent.
you want 30 or 60 days?
No, when it comes to council.
Just when it
Whenever
comes
they're
to
ready to
council?
come to council.
How much lower? 2,
Yeah,
3?
you can do it in council.
All right. So before it gets into council, get that information. We'll move it forward with that condition. Everybody understand? June, you're smiling, now you're laughing.
So basically, just for the record and for people who are listening to the proceedings or not, and are not here, you're approving the recommendations as presented. You're concurring with public safety. You're asking for additional information before the item is scheduled for council.
Correct. Okay, doke. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Somebody was listening.
She better be listening.
On item 4, you have a CO report relative to the fiscal year 2009-10 staffing plan for the Proposition Q Citywide Public Safety Band Program. This item has also been recommended for approval by the Public Safety Committee.
Good afternoon, Melissa Krantz, Office of the CAO. This report is more of the same. We're recommending 6 resolution positions for the Proposition Q Public Safety Program. These positions could not be included in the PAR. 5 of these positions were eliminated at the end of 2008-09 due to aggressive destaffing efforts on the behalf of our office in light of the completion of ballot-approved projects. One of these positions is a downgrade for ITA from a senior communications engineer to communications engineering associate. Proposition Q is a $600 million GEO bond funded program for construction of new police stations and emergency response facilities and the renovation of existing police and fire stations. The staffing plan that includes these 6 positions was approved by the Proposition Q Administrative Oversight Committee, and that includes representatives from the CLA, the Mayor's Office, our office, as well as police and fire. The staffing plan included 20.2 full-time equivalent positions. 19 of these positions were resolution authorities, and 13 of those positions were included in the PAR, which is why we're seeking approval for these 6 positions. These 6 positions, as well as the other positions recommended for 2009-10, are necessary to close out remaining ballot-approved projects, as well as commence 4 new renovation projects that were approved by council in April 2009. The positions reflects substantially lower amount. We had a peak of 86 resolution positions in 2005-06. Last year, for 2008-09, we began with 44 positions, and what we're recommending now is 19 positions, which includes these 6 before you today.
44 tonight.
This is what you're referencing?
Yes, there's that, and you should have this chart as well.
Is somewhere in here you show how many projects?
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you repeat your
I
question?
was wondering, is the bottom?
The bottom is the
reflect
project,
charts?
it's by project activity.
all right.
So what we expect to do this fiscal year is actually, we've already commenced design activities for the 4 renovation projects, and we're also closing out, we have the Metro Detention Center, the emergency, the emergency operations, and then we also have fire renovation program closeout.
And that's 19 projects.
Positions, 19
No,
positions.
the 19 is activity. So what we have,
Activities or projects?
they're activities.
Okay.
They're representing activities, so we have some overlap. So if you look at the chart, we outlined just the 2 critical components, which is design and construction activities. The reason why we selected these activities is that affects the Bureau of Engineering and the Bureau of Contract Administration the most in terms of staffing.
Would you tell us how many projects that these activities involve? Is it
6. Well, 6 construction activities, and then we have fire renovation, which is a multitude of activities. Right now, we're trying to close out 3 expansion projects. So 7 projects total.
Okay, so we're back, we're talking projects instead of activities.
That's correct.
So 7 projects and 19 people.
Yeah. And just to clarify,
That's 19 additional people?
this is 19 full staffing for Prop Q for 2009-10. If we include reimbursement of existing authorities, it's about 20.2 full-time equivalent positions. We expect closeout for the Emergency Operations Center, the Metro Detention Center, and fire renovation this year. Next year, we'll be just continuing with the 4 renovation projects. However, we do expect some increase in Con Ed staffing for the next fiscal year, because that's when we'll be commencing with the construction full force.
Anybody got questions on this one?
Yeah, I got the same concerns in the sense that if I read this correctly, we're talking about 3 projects. We have the Metro Detention, the EOC, and we have some post-move-in activities. Phase 2 hasn't started, which
Phase
is,
2 has started for design activity, and we do expect some construction activities to start at the end of this fiscal year.
because the thing is, I think activities throw this out of sync, because if you're talking activities versus projects, we're saying there may be 8 or 9 activities going on per project, but excuse it by trying to count activities versus the number of actual
Well, we
projects.
can certainly redo it in terms of just having project
Yeah,
count.
I mean, because is it more projects than Metro and EOC currently left?
For construction activities, we have Metro Detention Center. It's essentially post-construction. The Emergency Operations Center is in post-construction. And we have 3 fire renovation projects continuing.
Okay, so we have Metro, EOC, and what did you say, 3 fire?
3 fire,
So that's a total of 5?
yes,
Okay, and then we have work just beginning on Phase 2,
correct.
so it's 5. Okay. Yeah, I got the same concern on here that we have, if we get away from activities into projects, we find that although the numbers are down to almost completion, and it's some debate whether all three of these phase two are going to happen, because I guess there's still some debate or discussion about the police academy. But if you have three in line that are possible phase two, and you have a total of 5 that are in various phases of completion, of the 5, how many would you say are almost finished?
I would say we'll expect Metro Detention Center to be occupied by January of 2010, and we expect Emergency Operations Center to be occupied by January 2011. And fire renovation has been delayed. We were hoping to have it done by August 2009. It may be as late as December 2009.
Okay, so actually going into the last 6 months of the fiscal year, you really only have, after January, all of these projects are done.
Except for the EOC.
Okay, I thought you said EOC
The
one.
EOC will be
Okay,
2011.
you have one project.
Yes. That's for phase one
Yeah,
construction.
phase
project.
1. And then you have 3 projects that are pending.
Yes. Well, now we've treated the pending projects as 4 projects. We've divided the academy as 2. We have staffing between 1 to 2 people for Bureau of Engineering. The rest of the staffing that we have is essentially fixed. We do see increases in staffing the next fiscal year for Con Ed.
Now, you said you're 4 because you're counting the police academy as 2?
Right. What we have is the original scope of work, which included the renovation of the existing facilities. So that's the Police Academy building and the shooting range. We also have the demolition and construction of a new training facility. And those projects range from $8 million to about $24 million.
Then we have the Northeast and the
Right.
Old Rampart, 2 more projects that have been approved by council.
I think it was 46 for the academy.
Melissa, can you clarify that council did
Oh, sure. I just wanted to clarify, for the approved Phase 2, that includes 4 renovation projects. So it's the academy broken up as those 2 projects, as I mentioned previously, as well as the renovation of the old Rampart Station for Metro Division and the new renovation of Northeast Academy.
Yeah.
And Councilman Parks, all those projects have been approved by council. So we're going for, we've just recently received that approval.
So then,
Renovation of the Northeast Academy?
Northeast Police Station.
Oh, not Academy.
No, Northeast Police Station.
so after January 10th, you'll have a total of 5 projects.
Right. And the thing that's challenging about renovations projects from our point of view, it takes more staff time than it does dealing a lot of times with new facilities because we have all the interface of the existing staff. So it does take some extra resources.
Your pleasure on that?
I think we do the same thing and ask them to, by the time it comes to council, because again, I think that we could scrub these numbers even more.
So do some more shaving on it. So we'll move it forward with that instruction to reduce the numbers.
May I add one more thing? I just wanted to clarify that one of those resolution positions will be going away at the end of September. We are trying to be aggressive in staffing, and with that in mind, we're consolidating the Q&F programs, and that way, come September, we'll have both programs under one program manager.
So 4 and 5 will be under,
I'm sorry.
Items 3 and 4.
Items 3 and 4 will be,
under 1?
yes.
Okay. So then that would be
So our 19 resolution positions, if these were approved, would go down to 18 resolution positions.
Okay, and then that goes with the 28 on item 3?
Yes, for the total program, that includes, there's about 8 departments that are involved in
Yes.
all those numbers there. It's not just the Bureau of Engineering.
So you'll be back to 47 positions and less than 10 projects. You guys got some scrubbing to do.
We will work with all the departments.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the,
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
moving on that approved with those conditions? Madam Clerk, no, number 5?
Item 5 is CEO report again, and this is for the fiscal year 2009-10 staffing plan for the Proposition G Bridge Improvement Program. The Public Works Committee has waived consideration of this matter.
This is the last one today. This is the Seismic Bridge Improvement Program.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gloria Hancock, the CAO. In March, the Seismic Governance Committee adopted the staffing plan for the Bridge Improvement Program, and this is for Prop G, seismic bond. In 2000, 24 resolution authorities were provided to the program. In 2003, 8 additional positions were provided for a total of 32 positions. The Bureau of Engineering, who administers this program, has reviewed the positions and determined that 31 positions will be needed for the upcoming year. This is a reduction of 1 position, which is about $83,000 in savings. The staffing realignment consists of reclassification of 2 positions, the addition of 2 positions, and the deletion of 3 positions. So 27 of the positions were included in the 27 of the 31 were included in the PAR this year. This report is requesting recommendation for resolution authorities for 4 positions. That would be for 2 senior civil engineers, 1 at a PM2 level, a civil engineer, and a senior clerk typist. The Bridge Improvement Program is comprised of 59 projects. 22 of those projects have been completed, and there are 37 left to be completed. The scope of the projects that are still left to be completed is much larger than the ones that have been completed. The first 22, the average cost was about $1.9 million. Of the next 19 or 20 projects that we're going to be seeing rolled out within the next coming year is closer to $16 million. So the complexity of the projects has really snowballed into much larger projects, more difficult projects with multiple agencies being involved. So the department has looked to realign the staffing with the needs of the division, so, or needs of the program. So that is what's before you.
So we're talking 31.
31 positions, reduced from last year from 32. And it has been 32 since 2003. This program is a little bit different from the other programs in that the design work is done outside by consultants. These projects the PMCM work is actually done by the Bureau of Engineering. So it's just rolled out in a different manner.
And these bridges are throughout the city?
Yes.
Prop G,
That's a seismic bond?
is that a local bond?
Yes, city bond.
Because weren't there state bonds for the,
This was approved in 1990. It's a city bond measure.
from 1990?
Yes.
And we improved hundreds of city buildings that were affected by earthquake, and now the bridge program is what remains of that bond measure. These funds are highly leveraged. We have an 88% match from the feds and from Caltrans for our bridge program.
And MTA, there are a number of other funding sources. So actually, the seismic bond winds up paying roughly 12% of the salary costs, and the feds reimburse, the highway bridge program reimburses 88% of these expenditures.
Mr. Parks?
It sounds like a record.
I know.
Yeah. You know, the issue is we have 59 projects. We've eliminated, I guess, under
37 remain to be completed.
37 completed. We've eliminated
No,
22.
No, we still have to complete 37.
37.
Mhm.
We eliminated 21, and our positions haven't changed since 0203.
And that's because, unlike the other bonds, this, the design work is done outside by consultants.
So this is city staff
This
that
is-
stayed consistent 32.
Correct.
Well, we're gonna do bridge improvement program. So it doesn't take a lot of design to improve the structure of the bridge. Or is this for declaration?
Oh, no.
I thought this is structural. And what kind of design do you need to put more concrete and steel to save it from falling down?
Gary-
Unless it's decorative.
Gary Moore, Bureau of Engineering. Councilman, you were spot on. It takes a number of engineers to design seismic retrofits and also widening projects. It's very complicated in working with an existing bridge and so forth. So it does take a number of engineers to.
Just slap some wire and concrete?
Now, as much as I would like to do that, unfortunately, that's not. It's not the case.
Is there a phase 2, or is this?
This is the right now. It's the projected end of this bridge improvement program here.
And when will that end?
Is it
2015.
Yeah, 14, 15. I was going to say.
They'll all be done citywide?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So 1990, and we're still doing it.
Well, for instance, City Hall here received funding from Prop G. It wasn't the bridge program, like we said. Van Nuys City Hall was retrofitted using the seismic funds. So there's been a number of like we said, over 100 buildings that were seismically upgraded from Proposition G.
So it's not just bridges?
Not just bridges.
And I think the focus on bridges, when the buildings were completed, then they turned to focus on the bridges, and that actually that was implemented in 2000.
Okay. So originally, it wasn't designed for that originally?
It was included in the bond, but back in 1990, they didn't specify the specific projects that would be included.
Okay. This doesn't sound as bad as the others. But maybe Mr. Parks has a different view?
No. I think it's certainly bigger projects and more of them. But again, like I said, it's just if whatever you can do in looking at the bonds that we protected, just like the general fund, so.
But it doesn't, like DOT has 3, Public Works has 3. Gary Moore's taken the bulk of them, 23.
That is correct. For good work for the city.
You do serve at the pleasure of the mayor, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And he approved this?
Yeah, we will move that.
He's fully supportive of this, yes.
Any other question on this? No. I think we're going to let this one go by. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Number 6, please.
The CO is reporting relative to the establishment of salaries for the new classes of general manager and assistant general manager for the Human Services Department, and a salary recommendation for the interim general manager.
I thought the city's broke. The state's broke. And we're doing all this, and everything's broke. And Tom keeps telling me there's no money.
There is no money.
I mean, we're sure doing stuff with no money.
Tom, just make some money, Tom.
The federal government print it. Okay, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Cooper with the CAO's office. This is a report recommending salaries for 2 new classifications that were created to head up the new Department of Human Services that consolidates the Commission on the Status of Women, the Commission for Children, Youth, and their Families, and the Human Relations Commission. And in addition to recommending salaries for the 2 new classifications, this report also includes the mayor's recommendation for an interim appointment of Ms. Cheryl Soriano, and she is here today to answer any questions you might have.
So what numbers are we talking about?
We are talking, excuse me here, I'm trying to deal with this fuzzy thing and bifocals. For the general manager, they have that different type of nomenclature where we set up the M ranges, and the recommended range based on the size of the department and the size of the budget is M7, and that is a annual salary range of $123,276 up to $184,913.
Does this go through EERC?
Yes, it's been to EERC and approved. And the mayor is recommending the appointment of Ms. Soriano at the lowest amount in the range, which is $123,276.
And the general managers that held positions that were consolidated,
Well, they were executive director positions, and the executive director position of Commission for the Children, Youth, and their Families, which is the position that was actually deleted in the budget to swap out with this one, is exactly the same salary level.
Okay. What about the other?
The assistant general manager position that's being created, that replaced the assistant executive director position. It's about, the salary that's being recommended is about $2,000 more per year, because what the new salary is tied to is the level of senior management analyst 2, because the highest level subordinate that new assistant general manager will supervise is a senior management analyst 1. And in order to be able to fill that position or recruit, it has to be paid at least at the level of senior management analyst 2, and that's what we set it at. Or that's what we're recommending it be established at.
Anything on this?
The only thing on this one, I think we dealt with this, the ERC.
Yes.
But the ordinance, I understand, hasn't been done, so should this?
Yes, I can address that.
Can this move before the ordinance?
Yes, it can, because what we have in here, well, what Councilman Parks is referring to is the ordinance establishing the new Department of Human Services is pending right now before the Arts, Health, and Parks Committee. Did I get that right? And what this CA report does is recommend a salary be established for classifications that were already created. And basically all it does is amend Schedule A of the ad code to create a salary. It doesn't mean the position has to be used or filled yet. But with respect to Ms. Soriano's appointment, we have a recommendation that that would be effective upon the department being established and created via the ordinance that's pending now.
Holding up the ordinance?
My understanding is they were waiting to put it on the agenda for when a public hearing could be held, and I know a meeting had been canceled and the agenda got put off, so I'm not sure at this stage. Last time I checked on Council File Index, it wasn't posted yet, but the last meeting I believe was either canceled or postponed or something happened.
Just a housekeeping thing, but it just seems like they should go hand in hand.
Right, right. And actually, these positions, these new positions were added to the 2009-10 Personnel Authority Resolution. But this committee and council can actually go forward to adopt this report because the positions cannot be filled until the department's created anyway.
Yeah. So that's my only question, is the ordinance.
Okay. So we will move this matter, colleagues?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 7.
Item 7, the CEO is reporting relative to the 2006-2009 Port of Los Angeles Command Officers Unit Memorandum of Understanding.
Good afternoon, Thomas Simonowski of the CAO. This item is a MOU contract for 2006 through 2009 for the Port Police Command Officers Unit. It's a public safety unit that represents Port Police lieutenants and captains, all at the Harbor Department. And one of the interesting aspects about this contract is it is retroactive in terms of it ends June 30th of 2009. The reason for this is negotiations were somewhat prolonged, and we did reach some gridlock, and ultimately ERC did approve a last best and final offer. And some of the items here that you see, actually the entire package is consistent with what was provided to other sworn units during this time period. So the ultimate package is consistent with other sworn units, and it maintains the city's salary structure in regards to these types of positions. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you today.
So this begins when we approve this? And
Yes,
a retro check to these?
Yes,
personnel?
the employees would receive retro checks.
3 years of retro.
That's correct. And we would be back at the bargaining table very soon.
Maybe we should hold the retro checks until we get the contract approved. Make an incentive for that.
The retro checks cannot go out until this
You like that
contract
idea,
gets
don't you,
approved.
Captain? Captain Tracy's smiling now.
He's armed, be careful.
He's what? He's armed. Aren't you gonna jump in front and save me?
Yeah, I'm gonna yeah. Don't shoot, Dennis.
Tony?
Anybody here representing the officers?
Yes.
Sure. This is the command officers, right?
Yes, these are the command officers over
The
at the Harbor
lieutenants
Department.
above?
Lieutenants and captains, and the port warden.
So
I'm
did you
Captain
come
Ralph
alone, or
Tracy.
Did you bring your bodyguard?
I have another member with me, sir. But I'm Captain Tracy. I'm the president of the Command Officers
First name
Association.
Richard?
No, Ralph.
What happened to Richard Tracy?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Also known as Dick Tracy.
I wouldn't know, sir.
So can you briefly tell us what seemed to be the delay in negotiations?
What took 3 years to settle?
Took a while.
Historically, sir, recognizing we're a very small unit, and the public safety units kind of negotiate in order somewhat, because it seems to be easier, so that the standard that has been established in the past 3 contracts that I've been involved in, it seems that everybody ultimately accepts the same thing, and we're just kind of at the end of the train.
So who's in front of you by the description you just gave?
Port Police Association, LAPD's rank and file, LAPD's command officers, UFLAC, the Fire Chiefs Association, the Airport Association, the Airport Supervisory Association, and the Airport Chiefs Association, or I don't remember what they're called, Command Officers Association. So we're kind of.
How about General Services?
I don't know where they fall in there, sir, but I'm sure that they are in the order somewhere.
And you know, the port's a long ways from here anyway.
So you haven't developed a complex or anything, have you? Being the last one?
Sir, we're very patient.
No kidding.
But I must say this, though, many of my members have called my house saying, where's the beef?
Well, I thought it was the lobster down in San Pedro.
If you come down a little later this month, sir, the Lobster Fest is happening, and we'll be happy to get you helped out.
You always help me out. No, they waited a long time, and
Yeah.
I was kind of being
awkward.
facetious, but there's a very nice retro check from 3 years.
So your contract is expired again, once this is approved?
Yes, sir, it expired the 1st of July.
Good, that's like a support savings account for them. So we'll see you in 3 years.
I don't know, sir.
Captain Tracy does a great job down there. I gotta commend the port for the fine work they do.
That's
They
interesting.
do an excellent job. You'd probably never get down there, but they've got the place well secure. And the port of entry with all those ships.
Oh, no, I don't question the job they do. We've never had any indication that they're not doing other than a stellar job out there. It's just that I just find it kind of awkward that just the way, I guess, the custom and practice, it's not a law or an ordinance, it's just custom and practice that your organization waits in line basically before you do your negotiations.
There is no rule to that effect, sir, but generally that's the process that's been followed, and I've been involved in employee organizations for over 20 years, and it just seems to be, that's the mechanics of how it's worked for us.
So they got 6 lieutenants, 6 captains, and the port warden. So 13 people.
That's a small unit compared to what's PD, 90-some hundred?
Yes, sir.
And then the command staff's
Almost
another
10,000.
So
hundreds and hundreds.
it's kind of why we wait in line to the end.
They don't send you in first on the negotiation?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. No more questions.
Mr. Park. I don't know how we can do this after 3 years. I feel guilty. But we'll talk about it over dinner.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've got concurrence. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Let the folks know we appreciate all they do down there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Number 8, please.
Item 8, the CO is reporting relative to a 2009-10 unfreeze resolution. This resolution identifies all positions that are required to remain vacant pursuant to the 2009-10 adopted budget, as well as possible classification and pay grade issues that need to be evaluated after the positions become vacant.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes. Well, Maria, she gave such a good summary. There's not too much to add to that, but basically, these are, there's two sections here. Section 1 are positions that primarily for classification issues that upon becoming vacant, we want to ensure they stay frozen. And this is, you know, if the hiring freeze were to be lifted.
Doubtful.
Yeah, but it sort of protects that these positions can be frozen upon becoming vacant, so we can reevaluate their classification, whether they should be filled or not, that type of thing. And Section 2 is primarily resolution, with one exception, but it's primarily resolution authority positions that were added back by the council to the budget where no funding exists. And in most cases, they're, at least at the time they were put in this section, they were filled positions. So again, upon becoming vacant, in the absence of available funding, we would want them to stay frozen.
Okay, and now what about the senior city attorney? I know there was a problem
Yeah, that's
on Section 1.
That's a repeat entry from other unfreeze resolutions as well. That's a current filled position that right now, in the most recent city attorney administration, they have that position reporting to they're having the senior assistant city attorney position report to an assistant city attorney position. And the senior assistant, in the CAO's opinion, is basically being underutilized. So upon that position becoming vacant, we want to reevaluate the classification level.
So this is basically setting a policy, but we're not going to add or take anything away at this time.
Correct. All it does is create the act of ensuring the position cannot be filled upon becoming vacant. And this is
It goes through a process.
Exactly. And this is the unfreeze resolution is required by the administrative code. It's something we have to do each fiscal year.
Okay. Mr. Parks? All right, so we will break the news. Thanks for telling me. It's a little too late. Is Mr. Carter's come back? Okay. I'll just breaking news, but I'll wait until later. Okay, so we have a recommendation for approval, Mr. Parks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, number 9.
Number 9 is CAO and Los Angeles Housing Department reporting relative to various actions in connection with the receipt of $700,000 grant from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. This is for the Affordable Housing Preservation Program. The Housing Community and Economic Development Committee has recommended approval of the recommendations contained in the CAO report.
Hello.
Hello, Anime Utem from the CAO. The report before you recommends various actions to appropriate $700,000 of MacArthur Foundation grant fund to enhance the Department's Affordable Housing Preservation Program. In addition, we recommend Resolution Employment Authority for one project assistant position. The position is fully funded by the grant. In addition, we also recommend that due to the nature of the grant and the project's timeline, we do recommend a one-time exemption from the managed hiring process.
This is a high salary for this position.
I don't believe so. It is about $80,000, that's including the direct and the indirect costs. So it's about $53,000 for the direct costs and then $27,000 for the overhead, which is the fringe benefits.
And this is a one-person situation, or are they going to have other people working this?
It would be pretty much helping out the project coordinator for the program. So it would be this is a new position, but there's already a current position that's a housing economic and policy analyst that's working on that.
Right, the purpose of the...
for this position seems like a lot with the
Well, the
benefits.
base salary is $53,000,
Right.
and the others, of course, are the
And what's the
benefits.
27,000?
All of the benefits.
Is that insurance, dental, et cetera?
Yes, the fringe benefits.
I don't think the 53,000 is out of line, but the 27,000, which takes to 80,562.
Well, I actually think that's the, the
Yeah,
required.
that is based on cap
benefits.
30.
Right.
So that would be the central services, your fringe benefits, your pension, and the health.
Various duties, coordinate program outreach components, assist in the expansion of the city at-risk affordable housing database, assist in federal, state, local policy tracking, research analysis. How many folks altogether would be involved in this?
Actually, two. The purpose of the grant is to enhance our current affordable housing preservation program. And currently, we have a preservation director who's a housing and policy analyst. So it's a one-man shop. And that's one of the reasons we received this grant. The goal of the MacArthur Foundation with these grants is to support cities in their efforts to preserve affordable housing.
So this person will help out the director.
Exactly. They will work directly under the preservation director.
So there'll be two individuals involved for this.
Correct.
And then the director's paid out of the general fund?
No.
Or HUD?
No, actually, yes. Grant funds and then also municipal housing finance funds.
Okay, so there's no impact on general fund?
No impact on the general fund.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
No question.
All right, we'll approve that.
Thank you.
Send that forward. Number 10.
And item 10, the Personnel Department is reporting relative to efforts taken by the police and fire departments for the recruitment and selection of police officer candidates. This for the period January through March 2009. The Public Safety Committee has recommended to note and file this report.
Good afternoon, John Dunlop from the Personnel Department.
Joe Mariani, Recruitment Employment Division, LAPD.
Gentlemen.
So a repeat of, I think, what we've reported in the past, and that we've done very well in terms of recruitment and hiring. As a matter of fact, last fiscal year, we had a goal of testing of 8,400 for the year, and we actually tested over 13,000. And it appears, though, that some of the numbers have been declining a bit, yet we continue to exceed the goal. Our monthly goal of testing is 700 per month, and as of yesterday, we've tested 783, and we have testing today and Wednesday and Friday, so we'll probably exceed 800. So we're doing well, even though it's kind of dropping down a bit.
Why is it dropping as the economy drops? Should be increasing.
I'm not sure exactly why. We were seeing fewer people. We saw a great deal of people in February, March, and April. We actually had over 1,500 testing in each of those months. So then it dropped to a little under 1,100 in May and June. So it's
The job market hasn't improved at all. So you would think that this would stay on par. What about the sheriffs and the highway patrol? Do we ever monitor how they're doing compared to us?
I haven't done that lately. No, I can check.
We should check and see if it's just, since we're off the consent decree, people think we go someplace else versus we should. Economic climate change. It just seems that with this economy, like the military, recruitment is skyrocketing. People can't get a job and they're young enough to join the military. And you would think that with the economy as it is, with a bleak forecast, we'd have some large numbers.
I think partially, too, it could be the fact that it's common knowledge now, too, that we have reduced somewhat in terms of our hiring goal, and that for this year we're going to hire based upon attrition. So I think sometimes people monitor not only the news, the website, and those kind of things, and that impacts their decision. But still, 480 jobs is nothing to sneeze at, and still has a lot of opportunities for folks who are out there interested in the job market.
Yeah, it's obviously a goal we want to maintain and stay at that. Are we close to 10,000?
Well, as of earlier this week, we were at 9,977, but subject to change.
Didn't we hit 10 at one time recently?
We were pretty close, I believe. I'm not sure that we hit 10,000 exactly.
Yeah, we should make that goal and like fire off a round or something.
It's true.
Celebration. I mean, it's never been done before.
That's correct.
It would be a significant event. So we're filling to attrition. some of the questions that have come up regarding the bonuses, have we actually stopped the bonuses, the secret, the finder's bonus, the $500 and all that, if we put that on?
That's great, yeah, PORIP, the Police Officer Recruitment Incentive Program, as of July 1st, we no longer are offering that, so.
All right, have we changed our brochures to take that out?
We changed the website, and there's some places where ads had been placed several months back, so I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I think by August, we shouldn't reflect any, yeah.
So there's no more bonuses or incentives, it's you sign up to get a job and that's it, but whoever refers you, there's no more bonuses or incentives for them?
That's correct.
And if you lateral out and in, there's nothing for that?
Nothing for that.
Okay. Not that it brought a lot of people, but it did,
No.
so it did cost us money.
That's correct.
So that money can be saved. Mr. Parks? No questions? Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is to be noted and filed.
For item 11, you have the Board of Deferred Compensation Administration, the reporting back on a previous request by this committee to come back with the status and the financial situation of the deferred compensation plan.
Yep. Okay.
Chairperson Zine, thank you very much for inviting us back, and it's a pleasure to see Councilmember Parks. And my name is Eugene K. Canzano. I am the board chair for the City of Los Angeles Deferred Compensation Board. With me is Susan Dalton with our consulting firm Mercer, and Stephen Montagna with the City of Los Angeles, and he handles our deferred compensation. I'm honored to be here with these two fine individuals, and I'd like to take just a moment and say, Councilmember Parks, that I had the pleasure of working with Art early in my career at Public Works, so it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Regarding the...
He's been around since Station 39. And
talking about my brother.
I'm staying away from that one, Mr. Chair. So, but with regard to the financial status of the deferred compensation plan, the plan is stable and growing. It appears that we have pulled back from the precipice across the country of the financial crisis, and there have been improvements. Our assets are, as of the date of this report, at $2.4 billion, which, and as of today, are up to about $2.5 billion. We have made some improvements to the plan for our plan participants. One of those areas that you had intense interest in was the FDIC insured option, which is up to $250,000. The board and staff and the consultant have come up with a plan by diversifying and having other providers to the plan. Instead of having $250,000 of FDIC insurance, we are now, or we hope to have implemented in approximately September, 3 banks that will supply the city with this service, which would increase us from $250,000 to $750,000 by diversifying and having other suppliers.
Would the member have to diversify their?
No, that's all taken care of by the plan. It's completely transparent to them. If they can, we would not allow them to exceed $250,000 in any institution, and we would shift the funds to another institution automatically. Very, very simple for the plan member. Nothing to.
You're watching mine, aren't you?
Definitely, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yes. And we've made some improvements that I think that you'll be pleased, Chairman Zine, that we have consolidated our stable value, the 2 providers, into a single City of Los Angeles fund. So there's more diversification, more safety, and particularly Galliard, that is administering this, has much more transparency, and we're very pleased to provide that for our plan participants. I know that you've seen the report, and I'm hoping that I hit some highlights, but would entertain any questions you might have.
Well, the concern is that unlike the institutions at the public, banks at IndyMac, Countrywide, the institutions that have been falling at a record pace, our city employees be protected, that we do the investments in a cautious manner. You know, at $2.5 billion, it's better than the pension funds are doing because they're not doing that well. The returns are on the negative side. and people depend on that. So while we see the economy floating back and forth, we just want to make sure that the investments that we're putting in place for our employees, since obviously these are all city employees in different departments, are well protected. We don't end up like a Mr. Makeoff with the
Correct.
off your money.
Correct. And for those who want, the most conservative, they can be in the FDIC option, which, as you're aware, only 20% of governmental plans even offer an FDIC option. So we want to make sure that our plan participants can sleep well at night, knowing their money is protected.
Well, knowing that Stephen's there watching my money, I sleep very well.
That is a good thing. And as you know, there's no fiscal impact to the city's budget, as is paid 100% by plan participants.
How many employees do we have with that now?
We have 40,440, which we're very proud of.
40,440. Now that's active and retired?
Active and retired.
Okay. And they still have those provisions in time of emergency, et cetera, they can withdraw with the penalties?
That is exactly correct, Mr. Chair. Upon city separation, the unfortunate circumstance with a severe cutback, these funds are available to the plan participant who separates from city service. So, yes, I have had plan participants tell me that they view that as their absolute last backstop, that if something unfortunate and a cutback were to happen, they have financial security through that.
So say you take an individual who worked for the city of Los Angeles, retired from Public Works.
Yes.
And then came back to the city as a police officer.
Yes.
A different pension plan.
Yes.
Could they draw from that deferred comp without taking any penalties? If they're still a city employee, they were previous, came back?
If they've come back to work and they want to take a new distribution, they wouldn't be able to until they've terminated service again. But if in between the time that they originally worked and came back, they started to remove money from the plan, they could continue that distribution stream.
And what's the maximum age until they have to start drawing from the plan?
Well, you don't need to begin taking distribution until you reach the age of 70 and a half.
So at 70 and a half, you must start taking distribution?
Yes.
If not, they're going to give it to you?
Right.
Because the government wants their taxes. Government wants their taxes.
Right.
That's when you start paying the tax.
Correct.
So if you live till 70 and a half, you're okay.
You're doing really well.
Mr. Parks.
I was just wondering, in looking at your curve there as far as when you had the drop as far as your overall fund, did you ride the tide before everybody else hit and then you're coming back before they do? Because it looks like you dropped from 3.1 to 2.1 and then you had a successful 09 jumping 6%. And it looked like everybody else's was maybe hit a little later and harder.
It's a great observation. However, I would point out that with the upswing in funds in our plan, there's two contributors to that. One is the rise in the market, which this would indicate, but also in there is plan participants continue to defer money into the plan, so the plan rises from those two factors. Additional contributions, they're ongoing contributions which make the fund go up, as well as market rise.
So basically, the contribution level basically somewhat deters your losses during that year, and then you're getting an acceleration as things are leveling out.
That's exactly right. And people that maintained placing money into the fund as regular deferrals, if they were going into equities or stock investments, they were buying when the market was low. So when things turn around, there's actually a slingshot up effect. You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then what protections do we have so we don't have a situation like we've seen in the private sector where someone takes billions of dollars and walks away?
Our funds are all held in trust, and our record keeper has those accounted for, and they are not in any private hands or held anywhere except in an imperishable trust.
So we couldn't suffer the consequences of some of these.
That is
as
correct.
we see cascading rip-offs of
That is-
billions of dollars
that
If you're
is
70 years old or 75, you go to jail for 150 years. It doesn't really help the people who lost the money.
correct. Correct.
Okay?
And then, if I might, last time were here, we brought an award that we had won, and we were admonished because the box looked like a pizza. So we made sure to bring a pizza this time. But we also did have 2 awards that we would like to share with you. The 40,000 plus plan participants can be very proud, as well as the City Council, that we have won 2 awards, international awards, I might add, for our. This one is for the from the MACOM Platinum Award. So this is the #1 award for premier enrollment materials that we introduced when we launched our new recruitment drive,
I like that.
as well as.
Well, you okay? I think she thinks she's getting the Academy Award stuff.
Well, we thought so as well. And our plan participants can come down to room 867 and see these awards on display. So.
Very nice.
You remember him from high school or something?
Did you win a trophy or something along that?
Wouldn't you like this on your mantle?
Those are beautiful. Those ones are really beautiful.
I don't know about the wings.
This is clearly an outward example or recognition of the hard work that our staff does and world-class work. So we're very proud of it.
Well, if you mess up, you got 40,000 people who become looking for you.
That's right. That's right. Now, talk about the phone ringing at home. So we don't want to do that.
Almost 10,000 were cops.
That's a real problem.
I'd be very cautious with that. Susan, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that Jean said it very well. I think the plan is in very good shape, and as we mentioned, we've moved to strengthen some of the options and to protect the participants. So I would concur with the comments made by Jean.
I've had good luck with it. I've found that it's kept my golden years happy whenever I reach those. And Mr. Parks, we want to note and file this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we thank you all.
We'd like the
Gotta be-
committee and your staff to enjoy this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us. It's coming that way.
Start with the ladies, 'cause they're hungry. June doesn't eat that much.
Yes, that's a Pitfire margarita pizza. That's no ordinary pizza.
Pitfire's a great place.
Oh, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We like Pitfire.
Oh, good.
Okay. Well, what do you think he's gonna do? You think he's a scammer?
Boy, if that was an empty box, you would. Oh,
We can go look at our accounts.
and the pizza was a donation, no plan participants fund.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Number 12, our final item of the day. This item is placed on the agenda as approaching a 2-year limit from the debt. Should be continued.
Yeah, there's no need to discuss it unless you wish to, but this prolongs the life of the council file.
So we'll continue it? So we will continue it. We have one public speaker,
Yes, you do.
public comment, public employee for lower taxes. Sir, you don't have your name on here. Your name, sir?
Yes, sir. My name's Samuel M. Sperling.
Samuel Sperling.
I'm a retired city employee, and I'm the interim president of an organization called Public Employees for Lower Taxes. And I have a concern about the way city human resource management is going. I have a statement I'd like to read. I can do it in 5 minutes. Will you allow me 5 minutes, or?
Go ahead, sir. Since you spent
Okay.
all this time here, we'll give you 5 minutes.
All right.
You can have 5 minutes, but we're leaving at 1.
Chairman Zine and committee members, Parks, I'm Samuel M. Sperling, interim president, Public Employees for Lower Taxes. PELT believes the city's current use of probationary ratings can be and must be significantly improved. Moreover, we think validating probationary ratings would strengthen employee selection and improve human resource management in city service. In appreciation, or to appreciate our concern, please understand that it springs from personal experience, which has led some of us, myself included, to believe that certain regulations cited here are routinely violated. Civil Service Rule 126, I won't read it, Charter Section 509B and Charter Section 510C. We believe those sections are routinely ignored, and we think that's improper. Mr. Chairman, during the past 2 years, I attended more than 30 meetings of the Civil Service Commission. I was there each time to call for a new legal approach to probationary ratings. At the June 12, 2008 meeting, the board agreed to let me ask the following questions. 1, does Civil Service Rule 126 require appointing authorities to use probation as a job-specific, performance-based working test? If so, is this rule currently enforced? Number 2, does Charter Section 509B require the Chief Administrative Officer to comply with Civil Service Rule 126? If so, is Charter Section 509B currently enforced? Number 3, does Charter Section 510C require the Chief Administrative Officer to comply with Civil Service Rule 126? If so, is Charter Section 510C currently enforced? Regrettably, those questions were not answered by the board. Later, I was advised to submit them to the general manager for her review. Accordingly, I mailed those questions to Ms. Whalen in a letter on October the 30th, 2008. Subsequently, I was informed by her staff that the questions would not be answered by her, but that they had been referred to City Attorney's Office. So the board wouldn't answer them, the general manager wouldn't answer them, and now they've sent them to the City Attorney's Office, who is on his way out. Now, Mr. Delgadillo is gone, and my questions remain unanswered. So this is my last stop. As you know, Charter Section 242B authorizes council committees to conduct investigations. Thus, I ask that this committee, the Personnel Committee of the Council, investigate the current lack of rule enforcement in city service. What good are rules if they're not enforced? If you have a civil service system and you have civil service rules and the rules are not enforced, what does that say about the people who are in charge? If the enforcement power vested in the Board of Civil Service Commissioners under Section 541, if that power has been usurped, and I believe it has, if civil service rules are not being enforced, and I believe they are not, the people of Los Angeles have a right to know. And I think that means this committee has some kind of an obligation to check it out. That's at least what the charter says. Now, I appreciate having the opportunity to appear before you today, and I look forward to hearing from you, getting an answer to my questions, and what's more, I plan now to make this my regular stop instead of the Civil Service Commission, since it seems clear to me that that commission has been degraded, its role has been downsized, all that without a vote of the people, all that, as I understand it, against the law, but it's been done. And I'm concerned about that. I intend to be here every meeting, and I intend to have a question for this committee, and I intend to pursue that question until I get an answer. And if I can't do it here, then the only thing that's left for me is to seek some kind of legal solution. I don't want to do that. I want to work with the committee, and I trust that you will work with me. Thank you.
Do we have a copy of your comments, Mr.
Yes,
Sterling?
I do.
We will do a motion to follow up with your concerns. And we meet regularly on the second Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. That may change. Our time may change. Mr. Parks is going to stay in the committee, isn't he? Who's the new member? Mr. Kretz, Mr. Parks, Mr. Zine. We want to thank Mr. Cardenas for his participation.
Where else can you spend 2 hours with Dennis?
That's right.
Legally.
We don't want to do something illegally. That'd be a good headline. Sign in Parks. We've got to stay out of certain areas of the city, stay out of trouble. All right, that'll conclude our personnel meeting.